page we're on now is the Nimbis dashboard. So when you log into Nimbis, this is the page you will arrive on. In order to do a quotation, we are going to hover over the quotations button and click Add a new quote. This will take us to the page where we will be selecting our product. So we're going to scroll down. These products may differ slightly depending on what your brokerage is open to quote on, but ultimately these are where you will see your products. This is also where understanding the criteria of the product is very important, as here's where you'll need to decide which product the client goes onto, and you'll need to do it correctly the first time round. So in this instance, we're going to use a rideshare quote. So you will hover over the product and tick the little box next to it. We're going to move on to the next screen by clicking either next at the top or at the bottom. This next screen is just for existing clients, but as this is a new client, we are going to ignore it and click next again. From here, we will be adding our client details. We're going to go ahead and click next. In accordance with Poppy, we only need to capture the information required in order to do a quote. So after clicking next, it is not allowing me to proceed. Instead, it is giving me fields that need to be completed in order for me to carry on. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in this information. You can either manually click to the next field or you can use the tab button. Right, so then we're just going to put in the client's ID number. And if your client's ID number is correct, most of the other red fields, any other red fields, will disappear in terms of the client details in this section. However, if your client's ID number is incorrect, you will receive this error. You simply click OK and ask the client to reconfirm. Next, we'll move on to the contact information. Now, the client contact details, we can see there's a phone number, a mobile number, and an email address. It is crucial that during quoting stage, you receive or you capture the client's contact details. It mustn't belong to you or your brokerage or perhaps the client's colleague or a family member or even the dealership. It must be the client's information, and we need this because when it comes down to the client accepting the policy, the client will need to be receiving SMSs and emails. So you need to make sure that it is the client's details that you capture here. So we've got our phone number and our mobile number. So the mobile number will be the client's primary cell phone number, or the number that we can primarily reach the client on, whereas the phone number will be their secondary number, so maybe a landline or a work number. So we can see that there's a bit of a layout here. We've got a small block and we've got a bigger block. It is crucial that this is captured correctly, as incorrectly capturing the details here means that it will not pull through onto the system correctly. And when it comes time to send the client their pro rata SMSs or premium SMSs, the client will not receive them. So we need to make sure this is captured correctly. Our first step, in the smaller block, we are going to enter the first 3 digits of the contact number, and then the last 7 digits will be entered over here in the bigger block. And we see we already have a bit of a layout, 000 and then 70. So that's just to show you. So you're going to include the 0, and we're going to do the same thing for the cell phone number. I'm just pressing tab and putting in the rest of the number. Obviously, we're not using an active cell phone number here, but you would put in the client's details. All right, so this is the correct way to enter the client's contact numbers. Next, we move on to the email address. Now, once again, like with the contact numbers, this must be for the client. It may not be your email address or the dealership or a colleague. It must be the client's email address. And we will go into a bit more detail about this later, but this will come into play with our email procedure, the finalizing of the email procedure and the legality of it. So for the email procedure and for capturing an email address, you're going to put in the client's email address. In this case, I'm just going to be capturing our training team's email address. And there we go. If the client does not have an email address, please don't put your own. You will just put none@none.co.za to make sure that the system allows you to move on. Right, so at this point, we've captured all our client details, captured our contact details and the email address correctly, and we're going to click Next. Our next step will be to capture the risk address. So this will be where the vehicle is parked most of the time overnight. So we're going to start by the building. We'll capture that will be the house number. Then street will of course be the street that the house or the residence is in. And we're going to skip town and city and move straight on to postal code. Now I'm going to put in the town or the city name in the postal code. And as we can see, it's giving me the town name as well as the postal code. Now the reason we do it this way is because you could then put the city over here and then the postal code in the postal code. But if you put in the postal code, it will give you every area under that postal code and you'll be scrolling for quite some time. So to save you some time, you just put in the city name in the postal code box and it'll give you the postal code as well as the city, and then you've saved some time. And then it'll automatically generate the province and then you can click next. Then we come to our moral risk disclosures. Now we will go into this in a bit more detail, but not right now. We're just going to show you how to do this. All right, so what we've got here is we've got these different moral risk questions. So our first one, do you give us permission to do an ITC check under your name or ID number? Now, regardless of what system or what insurer you're working with, if this question is there, the client needs to answer yes. Once the client has answered yes, you tick the box. Now, for each of these questions, they should look familiar if you're not new to the industry. But even if you are, you might have heard it when you've spoken to your insurance company at some point. You'll recognize some of these. And what you're going to do is ask every question word for word to the client. So we're just going to do the first one as an example. So has an insurer ever cancelled, declined, refused to renew, or impose special terms and conditions on any policy held by you, your spouse, or anyone who will drive your vehicle? You'll then click the drop-down box and select yes or no, depending on what the client answers. It's crucial that you select the answer that the client gives, not the answer that you think we want. So just for training purposes, we are going to select no. So what you're going to do is ask each of these, read each of these questions word for word, and select the answer that the client gives. So for most of these, we are going to be saying no, but we will make one yes, just so that you can see what to do in that instance. All right. So what we've got here is has any claim submitted by you or anyone who will drive your vehicle ever been repudiated? Another word for repudiated is rejected. In this case, our metaphorical client has said yes. So what we're going to do here, we know immediately that we need to refer this through to our authorizations department. So authorizations at brokerbuddy.co.za will need to receive this to see if we can in fact proceed with the quotation. So here we're just going to find out a little bit more about the client. So let's say, for example, that the client had a claim repudiated in 2017 due to unpaid premiums. All right, so there we can see what happened, when it happened, and in this case, how it was resolved. Although it's a repudiated claim, so repudiation would have been how that matter was repudiated, or how that matter was resolved, sorry. But that will happen whenever there is a yes. You will need to give us information on why that answer is yes, so that our authorizations department can have a look at it and see, based on the scenario, if we can in fact accept the client. We won't just straight up reject the client. We will have a look at other factors as well. So it'll just be to give us enough decision to make sure that we can in fact insure the client. All right, we do handle it by a case-by-case basis, so please don't see yes and think, okay, we're just going to reject it. That is not the case. Our management team will have a look at it and treat each case differently and look at them separately. All right, so moving on to the insurance history. The insurance history, it'll just be for the last 5 years. Now, when you look at the moral risks, you'll notice that some of them have ever in the sentence. And those sentences are very important to pay attention to. And when we say ever, we mean ever, whether it was 2 years ago or 20 years ago. If there is ever in the sentence, such as this here, you will need to give us details on it if the client answers yes. However, with the insurance history, we only need for the past 5 years. So this will differ depending on for each client. But let's say that before doing a quote with you, the client was with MyWay from November 2017 until October 2021. But then before the client was with MyWay, they were with Santam perhaps. And from January 2016 until October 2017. All right, so now we see here that there are 2 insurers listed because these are the 2 insurers that the client has been with within the past 5 years. So it's not only the most recent insurer, but it'll be every insurer that the client has been with over the last 5 years. So as we can see here, you'll need the name of the insurer, list name of insurer, and year start to end. So we have a start and end date for both. Then we move on to our claims history. Now with the claims history, it is very similar to the insurance history in that it only needs the past 5 years. So we're going to go ahead and capture the claiming details or incident details. So let's say that, for example, the client drove into a pole. So it'll be a short description of loss. Then we will have a date of loss. Let's make it the 6th of April 2021. And then we will need to find out what the value of the claim was. This will not just be the excess amount and not just be the amount that the insurer paid out, but the full amount of the claim or the full amount to repair the vehicle or replace the vehicle. This the client can get from either an authorization to repair or an agreement of loss. So we've got a short description of loss, the date of loss, the claim amount, and then we'll also need the status of the claim. So there we go. But again, like with the insurance history, let's say the client had a different one. We know based on this question here that the client had a claim in 2017. So in this case, the client drove into a third party. We're just going to say TP for short. And let's say that that happened on the 2nd of October 2021. Oh, nope, 2017. Sorry, guys. And that maybe came to 45,000. But we know that there was unpaid premiums. So the client has already informed us that the status was repudiated. Here we go. So this is every incident or claim that the client had within the past 5 years, whether it's settled, repudiated, whether it's still with an assessor, etc. So we'll need a description of loss, a short description of loss, I might add, the date of loss, the full claim amount, and the status of that claim. Now we can either click next here, which will probably be easier, or you can click next at the top. The bottom one is closer, so we will use the bottom one. This will now generate the quotation. It will bring through all the information we have captured, product, client details, model risks, risk address, etc., and give us the quoting page. Now from here, we want to add our vehicle. So we're going to do this by navigating to the cover tab, because we'll be adding the item that we want to cover. Now here we've got rideshare services. Now the rideshare services is the compulsory automatically included roadside assistance product that the client has on their policy. This is a rideshare product, which is why there is a rideshare services. On Soteria NP4 there is Value Buddy Gold, and then on QDrive there is QDrive services. If you would like to know a bit more about these services, please feel free to join one of our product overview sessions where we do go into detail about this. Now, as advised, this is a mandatory product. It is automatically included, which is why there is already a premium here at the top. But now we're going to come back to that later. We want to add the vehicle. So we're going to go to the sub tab, the motor tab, as that is the section that the vehicle will fall under. So we're just going to wait. There we go. It loaded a bit quicker than I expected. So next we're going to click on add a new item, and it'll open the window where we're going to add the vehicle details. Now, similar to the client details, we only need the details in order to generate a quotation. So we're going to calculate premium. And once again, we will get a bunch of red fields that we need to complete. So we're going to start at the top. We'll change basis of settlement to retail. I'm trying to click vehicle sum insured. It's not allowing me to, but we'll come back to that. Province. This will be not where the client resides, but where the client mainly operates. Most of the time it'll be the same place, but if the client maybe lives on the border of Eastern Cape and Western Cape, and they travel between the two, if they stay in Western Cape, but they mainly operate in the Eastern Cape, you would put the Eastern Cape. So this is where the client mainly operates. All right, then onto M&M code. Again, like with the sum insured, I'm not able to click here, but I can click select. So here's where we will add our vehicle. In the description, you can either put in the vehicle description or the M&M code. An M&M code will give you a more specific search, but we'll just use a description as well for this one, and you click search. If you enter the description, it'll give you a list of every vehicle that matches that description. So we're going to use this one here. Let's use a 2020 model, and we've got the make, the model, there we've also got the M&M code, and then the year models of that particular make and model. There we go. So a 2020 model would fall in over here. So we're going to double click on that one. It'll take you here. When you click on the drop down, you can select the year model. Now on the side here is where we can get our values. Now at the moment there are zeros, and pay close attention to selected value. Now selected value is the amount that is the field that needs to be filled in, as this is what will pull through to the vehicle sum insured. So we're going to click this green button, and there we go. We've got 288,800 in our selected value box, and we can see here that that is the retail value because we selected retail under basis of settlement. Now if we, for example, have a brand new vehicle such as a 2020 model, if you click refresh, you'll notice that these values are all zeros and there's only 339,000. Now the selected value will be 0 because these are 0. So what you will need to do is manually type in the value. All right, please make sure that you type it in correctly, otherwise your client will be underinsured and we don't want that. So you'll type in the full value that is noted under new value. However, in this case, we're working with a 2020 model. There's our value, and we click select. And there it pulls through onto vehicle sum insured as well as our M&M code section. Next, we've got average kilometers traveled by the vehicle per month. This you'll get from your client. For training purposes, we're just going to put in 2,500. Operator's vehicle is registered with, so this will be whichever e-hailing platform the client is with. Obviously, there are quite a few, so not all of them are listed here. So this is the way this is going to work. If a client is with Uber only, is only with Uber, you'll select Uber only. As we know, Taxify is now Bolt. Then we've got more than one operator and Yuku. So the way more than one operator works is it is sort of self-explanatory in the name. So if a client is with Uber as well as with Bolt, you would select more than one operator. However, if the client is, for example, with Lyft or InDriver, or I think the latest one is Didi, what you can do is you'll also select more than one operator. So you'll select more than one operator for one of two instances. Firstly, the client is registered with more than one operator, or the vehicle, sorry. And secondly, the vehicle is registered with an operator not listed on this list. All right, but in this case, our client is registered with Uber, so we're going to select Uber and move on to the next section. Next, we've got NCB. This you will ask the necessary questions to calculate the NCB. If you're not sure on how to calculate it, I would highly recommend going and having a look at one of our previous sessions where we did cover how to calculate an NCB. Alright, so just for training purposes, we'll select 0. Cover type we have is comprehensive. If the client would like something else, the options are there. Use. The use does differ depending on the product. Now at the moment we are doing a rideshare quote, which means that the use has to be Uber taxi. If the client is on Soteria or P4, they can be on private, business, or commercial, depending on what the client uses their vehicle for. Rideshare will always be Uber taxi, and then Q Drive will always be commercial. So we're going to go ahead and select Uber taxi. Next, we have tracking requirement. Now, tracking requirement, this is more of a question in terms of, do we need the client to have a tracking device? Yes, we do. So do we have a tracking requirement for the client? Yes. This will always be yes, regardless of the product. Then tracker type is driver behavioral tracking unit. Now, if your client is on Soteria, P4, or rideshare, the requirement is a tracking unit with driver behavioral monitoring capabilities. It doesn't matter what company the tracking device is with, as long as it has those functions. If you would like some more examples, you're welcome to join one of our product overview sessions. So I'm just going to quickly repeat that. For Soteria, P4, and rideshare, the tracking requirement is a unit with driver behavioral monitoring capabilities. And if your client is on a Q Drive product, they can have any tracking device. All right, so next we're going to move on to the next red field, but our red fields are done. So what we're going to do next is add our license details under drivers. So we know that the license details are not here because this license code section is blank. So we're going to change this by clicking on this pencil. This will open up a new block that will have the client's information, our client details, and we're going to scroll to the bottom, and this is where we get our license info. So we've got our license code. Let's select a C1 and license date. This the client can get from the front of their license card. It'll be the first license issue date. It doesn't really matter what order you put this in, as long as there is the date, the month, and the year. Then we're going to scroll to the top and click Save. Once you click Save, it'll take you back to the vehicle window. However, our license details have not pulled through, and the way we know this is that this license code section is still blank. If this does happen, you're just going to quickly go back and just redo that quickly. It is on Chrome, so I've set mine up differently, but yours should be able to just quickly copy what was previously entered. All right, so then we go up and we click Save, and it'll now save it again, but this time, see, the screen goes a little bit hazy, and now our license code is showing there, which means the details have pulled through successfully. So just please be sure to have a look at that. Then we scroll down and we've got our add-ons, which are value-added products, which is what we refer to them here at Bad Broker Buddy, or VAPs for short. And what you can do is, if a client would like any of these VAPs, you simply tick the box next to the VAP, and that will add it to the quote. If you'd like more information on our different VAPs, once again, you can join our product overview sessions as we go through our different VAPs and what there is included. So once you have selected your VAPs, should your client want any, you're going to scroll all the way back to the top and click Calculate Premium. It'll now take everything and generate a premium for you. So there you've got your item premium. Now let's say at this stage you want to see what all makes up this premium. So you're going to click that drop down to collapse it. There's your item premium, and then there we've got the amount for the VCM, the vehicle control management, as well as the passenger liability. So you can see what all makes up the premium. We're going to minimize that, and we're going to click Save, and this will now pull through the vehicle. Onto our quote, and we can see there it is. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly click refresh to get the premium, and there we go, our premium has been updated. So now we can see there that the premium that we're going to give to the client is not this item premium here at the bottom, but this premium here at the top, this total premium. The reason for that is in the event where the client has more than one vehicle that has been added onto the quotation, this premium, this total premium, will include the premium for each of those vehicles, as well as the VAT, as well as the rideshare services that we saw earlier. So this premium here is what you will give to your client. I'd say at this stage your client is happy with their premium, but now they want to know what their excess is. So what you're going to do is click this View Quotations button. And there we've got our quotation document. Now, should the client accept this the quotation and want to take out the policy, this quotations document is what will be sent to the client. So we're just going to maximize this for you guys so you can see and zoom in. And we can see that this is a very comprehensive document in terms of it's got a lot of information that's valuable to the client. They can see the brokerage, they can see broker buddy, the insurer, etc., as well as different disclosures. Here they can see what's being captured under the moral risk section. And we've got a summary, a breakdown, a premium summary. And then we move on to the vehicle. Now just underneath the vehicle, we've got the different excesses. Now I realize that this can seem very intimidating, but don't worry. This is the excess, yes, but the way the excesses are laid out is that with the basic excesses, only one may apply to any one claim, and then we have the additionals where a maximum of 3 may apply to any one claim. So this is just to let your client know that in the event of a claim, the excesses will apply on the circumstances of the claim, but these are the excesses that might apply in the event of a claim. So you'll just need to go and advise the client of these excesses so that they are aware of it. Once you have advised the client, you can go ahead and close that, and we're just going to navigate back to the quoting page. So at this point, you have done step 1, which is selecting your product. Step 2, which is adding your client details, Step 3, which is confirming the moral risk. Step 4, adding the vehicle. And step 5, confirming the premium as well as the excess structure. And that brings us to the end of how to perform a quote on Nimbis.